superpowers locked in a centuries-old rivalry, the Byzantine Empire in the west and the Sassanid Empire in the east. Their endless wars had drained resources, weakened armies, and shattered morale across their domains. Yet neither of these empires could have predicted that their greatest threat would come from a previously underestimated land, Arabia. From the desert peninsula, a new movement was rising. One not based on empire or ethnic power, but on a powerful message of faith. This new force was Islam, a religion brought by the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, who united the tribes of Arabia into one community, the Ummah. After his passing in 632 CE, his closest companions, the Rashidun caliphs, took the mission forward. Under the leadership of Caliph Abu Bakr and then Caliph Umar Khattab, Muslim forces rapidly expanded beyond Arabia. In just a few short years, they had seized large portions of the Levant, including Damascus. But the real test was yet to come, the full might of the Byzantine military. That test came at the Battle of Yarmouk. By 636 CE, the Rashidun Caliphate had already taken control of parts of Syria and Palestine. Alarmed by these rapid conquests, Byzantine Emperor Heraclius planned a massive counteroffensive. He gathered one of the largest armies the empire had fielded in years, determined to drive the Muslims out of Syria. Heraclius personally oversaw the mobilization of troops from across the empire: Greeks, Armenians, Slavs, Franks, Georgians, and Arab Christian allies from the Ghassanid tribes. His strategy was simple: to crush the Muslim army with overwhelming numbers and reclaim lost territory. On the Muslim side, the leadership recognized the gravity of the situation. The Syrian front was placed under the command of Abu Ubaidah Jarrah, one of the 10 promised paradise and a close companion of the Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him. But the battlefield command was entrusted to the one man who had never lost a single battle in his military career, Khalid Walid. This battle would not be evenly matched. On paper, the Byzantine army vastly outnumbered the Muslims. Byzantine forces. Estimated strength, between 80,000 and 200,000 troops, Muslim chroniclers often cite up to 240,000. Composition: Byzantine Romans, Armenians, Slavs, Franks, Ghassanid Arab Christians. Main commander, Vahan, an experienced Armenian general. Other notable leaders: Theodore the Sakellarios, Jabla, Ahum, Gregory the Armenian. Muslim forces were: estimated strength, 25,000 to 40,000 troops. Composition: Arabs from Mecca, Medina, Yemen, and surrounding regions. Supreme Commander, Abu Ubaidah Jarrah. Field Commander, Khalid bin Walid. Despite being outnumbered by at least 3 to 1, the Muslim army had 3 crucial advantages: unshakable belief, superior leadership, and a flexible military structure. Known as Saifullah, the Sword of Allah, Khalid bin Walid had a legendary reputation. A former general of the Quraysh who had once fought against Islam, he converted after recognizing the truth of the message. From then on, his sword never rested. Khalid had led the Muslims to victory at Mu'tah, Ulais, and Walaja, defeating the Persians and Byzantines through speed, discipline, and daring tactics. His ability to read the battlefield, anticipate enemy movements, and exploit terrain made him arguably the greatest general of his era. He restructured the Muslim army into 4 divisions: right wing, left wing, center, and a powerful mobile cavalry reserve under his direct command. His leadership style was hands-on. He led charges, adjusted lines, and inspired confidence. Even though Abu Ubaidah was the official commander, he humbly stepped back, recognizing Khalid's unmatched experience in warfare. The Yarmouk battlefield was located near the river of the same name, which today lies near the borders of Syria and Jordan. It was a plateau bordered by steep ravines and broken ground, a natural fortress and death trap in one. Khalid had selected this terrain carefully. While it limited maneuverability, it worked to the Muslims' advantage. The massive Byzantine force could not deploy in full strength due to the tight geography. Meanwhile, the Muslims, with their lighter and more agile units, had room to use speed and precision. Additionally, the terrain left the Byzantines with only a narrow passage for retreat. If that could be sealed, their fate would be sealed as well. Day 1, Opening Skirmishes. The battle began on August 15, 636 CE. Vahan started with light attacks, hoping to test the Muslim defenses. He underestimated Khalid. Khalid launched controlled counter-skirmishes to gauge Byzantine strengths. Though minor, these skirmishes confirmed to Khalid that the Byzantines were well supplied and disciplined, but lacked cohesion across ethnic units. That night, he met with his commanders. His message was clear: hold positions, conserve strength, and prepare for intense days ahead. Second day of the battle, Vahan escalated the offensive. He directed concentrated attacks on the right and left flanks of the Muslim army. The fighting was brutal. Units under Amr bin al-As and Yazid bin Sufyan were pushed back. Panic set in briefly. But from the rear came a surprising reinforcement: the Muslim women in the camp. Led by women like Khala bint Aswar, they shouted at the retreating men, reminding them of their duty to Allah. Some women picked up swords and joined the fray. Reinvigorated, the Muslim lines reformed. Khalid led a cavalry strike that hit the Byzantine flanks, pushing them back and restoring the line. At the day 3, Vahan now tried diplomacy. He invited Muslim leaders to negotiations and offered bribes, truce, and positions. But Khalid's reply was cold and final: "We are a people who drink blood, and the blood of Romans is the sweetest to us." Tensions rose. That night, Khalid conducted reconnaissance missions and small raids. He found weaknesses in the Byzantine center and cavalry reserves. At the day 4, with better knowledge of the terrain and enemy positions, Khalid launched synchronized attacks across the front. The mobile cavalry swung between weak points, stabilizing any Muslim losses and devastating exposed Byzantine units. The Byzantines were shocked by the speed of the cavalry reserve. They expected a static army, but Khalid had built a dynamic, reactive force. That night, the Muslims slept knowing momentum had shifted. Day 5, Massive Counterattack. Vahan realized that he was slowly losing ground. He ordered a full-scale attack, especially targeting the Muslim center led by Shura bin Hazana. For hours, the Muslims held their ground. But by midday, cracks were showing. Khalid ordered his cavalry to dismount and fight on foot, plugging gaps and stabilizing the center. Simultaneously, he led a flanking maneuver against Gregory the Armenian's units, completely routing them. Gregory himself was killed in the battle. Muslim morale soared. The Byzantines, exhausted and demoralized, began falling back. Day 6, the final strike. In the dark hours before dawn on the 6th day of the Battle of Yarmouk, Khalid ibn al-Walid made his final move. He had already sensed that the Byzantine forces, though vast in number, were collapsing from within. Exhaustion, confusion, and repeated losses had broken their will. That night, he sent a swift detachment of his cavalry to the only possible escape route available to the Byzantines, a narrow passage near the Wadi Ar-Rakid. This ravine was steep and dangerous, bordering the battlefield to the west. By quietly positioning troops along this exit, Khalid effectively sealed the Byzantine army within the field. The Byzantines, unaware of the trap, had no idea that by sunrise, their fate would be sealed. As dawn broke on the 6th day, Khalid launched a massive, all-out assault. From the front, Muslim infantry surged forward, coordinated and determined. They struck the Byzantine center with relentless force. Commanders like Abu Ubaidah, Shurabil, and Amr bin Az led their men with powerful resolve, reinvigorated by the clear prospect of victory. Simultaneously, both flanks of the Muslim army pressed in hard. The Byzantine wings, already weakened from previous days, began to fold under pressure. The Christian Arab and Armenian allies, who had endured days of relentless fighting, could no longer hold formation. Then came the most shocking strike. Khalid's mobile cavalry, which had vanished into the distance during the night, suddenly appeared behind the Byzantine lines. They charged into the rear of the Byzantine camp, spreading panic like wildfire. The Byzantines now found themselves attacked from three directions: front, flanks, and rear. Chaos erupted across the battlefield. Soldiers shouted orders, commanders lost control, and ranks disintegrated. Many tried to escape westward, fleeing toward the Wadi Rakad. But when they reached it, they found the crossings blocked. Desperation took over. Some tried to climb down the cliffs and were crushed. Others jumped into the ravine, drowning or falling to their deaths. Thousands were slaughtered as they attempted to flee, and Khalid's cavalry hunted down the fleeing remnants. By mid-morning, the Byzantine army was no longer an army. It was a mass of dead, wounded, and terrified men. Several of their key commanders were killed in the melee. Gregory the Armenian and Theodore were slain. Vahan, the supreme Byzantine commander, vanished. Some say he was killed, others believe he escaped only to die in disgrace. There was no resistance left. A few pockets of Byzantine soldiers tried to fight back, but Khalid and his men systematically destroyed them. The Muslim cavalry cut through the broken lines like fire through dry grass. By the afternoon, the battlefield was silent. The sun shone down on a valley filled with the bodies of those who had once formed one of the most powerful armies in the world. The Muslim soldiers raised their banners high. The word spread across the ranks: the Battle of Yarmouk was won. The Byzantine army was annihilated. The loss was catastrophic. Tens of thousands of Byzantine soldiers lay dead. Muslim casualties were far fewer, perhaps 3,000 to 4,000. The field was soaked with sacrifice, but it was also soaked with a historic victory. Syria was now forever lost to the Byzantines. Khalid bin Walid stood victorious. Against impossible odds, he had led a smaller, outnumbered force to a legendary triumph. His strategy, speed, and faith had crushed an empire's dream. The land that once trembled under Byzantine rule now echoed with the cry of Allahu Akbar. The Roman eagle fell, and in its place rose the banner of Tawhid. The world would never be the same again. The Muslim losses were relatively light compared to the devastation suffered by the Byzantines. Most estimates suggest around 3,000 Muslim casualties versus tens of thousands of Byzantine deaths. The battlefield was littered with bodies. The Yarmouk River ran red. Survivors among the Byzantines fled north, while others surrendered. The road to Jerusalem, Aleppo, and eventually Egypt now lay open. Caliph Umar, upon hearing the news, wept with gratitude and humility. The victory was seen not as personal glory, but divine favor. The Battle of Yarmouk was not just a military triumph. It was a civilizational pivot. Within a decade, the entire Levant and much of North Africa would be under Muslim rule. The Byzantine Empire never recovered its eastern provinces. Heraclius reportedly said, "Farewell, Syria, my beloved province. You shall never return to us." Khalid bin Walid, despite his unmatched contributions, was soon dismissed from command by Caliph Umar to prevent pride from entering the ranks. Khalid accepted this quietly, saying, "I fight for Allah, not for Umar." He died a few years later, saying with tears, "I fought in hundreds of battles. Not a place on my body is free from a scar. Yet here I die on my bed, like a camel." Let the eyes of cowards never sleep. The Battle of Yarmouk redefined the political, religious, and military landscape of the Middle East. From that day forward, Islam was no longer confined to Arabia, it had entered the stage of world history. And at the center of it stood a desert general, a unified army, and a faith that could not be broken. The land remembers. The river flows. But history will always mark Yarmouk as the battle where empires fell, and legacies were born.